initiative of OrthoTV. In this webinar series, we discuss various topics related to health, and we aim to provide information without any commercial influence. So the hallmark of this program is that we provide the latest scientific information without any commercial influence. I am Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala. I am a pediatric orthopedic surgeon practicing in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and I am going to host this session. At the outset, I should like to explain why we decided this topic. We all know that smartphone has become integral part of our lives. It has penetrated into the nooks and corners of our lives. And such a drastic change in a short time, probably a decade, is going to have a significant effect on our life. To highlight why this topic is important, I will show you the transition which has taken place, and I am sure those who are born before 1990 will be able to relate with this transition. So let me start with this short presentation first before we go into the interaction. So this is basically for those who were born before 1990. I'm sure that all of us have played the games like this, or we call it a thappo, or in other words, like hiding behind the tree or behind the object and then finding out. Similarly, the street cricket is another popular game, or marble was another popular thing at that point. So we used to call, or we can call this as a play-based childhood, where play was a very important and dominant in the childhood. With the evolution of technology, the things really change. And let's understand the changes. I'm sure that most of us have seen that evolution in our life also. So the first, we had a black and white TV. Later on, we had an introduction of color TV. Then with the better technology, now we have a flat TV. Then came the computer. Initially, it was a desktop. Later on, we have laptop. Also for children, initially there was a video game with a cord. Later on, it became a cordless Wi-Fi or Bluetooth enabled video game. Then came the tab. Again, then we have an introduction of a mobile phone. Initially, it started with 2G, later on 3G, then came the 4G. Then this gentleman came out with a big innovation, and that's the introduction of iPhone. Then improvement in the internet, and then we had 4th generation technology speed. With that, it has started penetrating into the life of children also. And this is a very common scenario. You go to any birthday party of children, and you will see that all of them have a mobile phone, and they are not playing physically, but they are playing with the mobile. So this play-based childhood, which we saw earlier, transition into a phone-based childhood. The question is there any impact on the development of a child? Because we know that from a small child to an adult, it's basically we need a right kind of experience at right time. And whether this change in the technology, introduction of smartphone, has really changed the experience we have when we are children. So that's the important question. Now, let us understand some of the features of smartphones so that we can understand why it is really a big problem. Some of the popular features which were earlier in the previous generation of phone are basically calling facility, texting, or taking a photo. And then we have apps called WhatsApp, GPay, or if we want to call Uber. So these are the popular apps. This is not a big issue. The big issue is with the additional feature, that is the social media. That may be Facebook, that may be Instagram, or the online gaming possibility with the mobile phone. And the third, like now children can view the adult content on their phone. They don't need anything. They have everything via which they can look at or watch the adult content. The next question is there any effect on our health? Definitely yes, but we are not going to cover the physical effect. The physical effect are strain on the eyes, effect on the bone, because now we are not physically active, and that may have a negative effect on the bones, or we may have a sarcopenia at early age, or there may be an excessive load on the cervical spine because we are all the time looking down, or there may be a obesity or metabolic ill health. These are possible physical effect. And we are also not going to discuss about this type of problem. This is a video which has become very viral. So we are not going to discuss such thing because we already know that that's a big problem. But what we are going to discuss is the psychological changes and the cognitive changes with this. So with this short introduction, I will stop about that. But before, I would like to introduce our two guest speakers. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Elia Abi-Jaoude. He is a consultant pediatric psychiatrist at a very famous SickKids Hospital of Toronto at Canada. And we have another expert from India, Dr. Himanshu Desai. He is a consultant psychiatrist and a director at Gujarat Institute of Psychology Science at Ahmedabad. So both are going to cover the impact on the children and the effect on the adult. And let's move on to the discussion now. So we will start again. Welcome to this webinar. Both Elia and Dr. Himanshu, I welcome you to this webinar. And we start with a very simple question. And that is about when we talk about any side effect, the dose of a medicine is very important. Let's say I'm talking of ibuprofen, then the side effect is always related with the dosage which the person is taking. So, Elia, I would like to understand from you, how do we look at the dose effect? What is normal? What is, we can call it excessive, and what we can call it addiction? Yeah, you just need to unmute yourself.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Dr. Ganjwala, for this opportunity, for this invitation. Thank you, Dr. Desai, and thank you everyone for being there. It's really my pleasure to be talking to you about this topic, this very important topic. And as Dr. Ganjwala said, it's really how much is very important here. You know, there's nothing that's necessarily, well, most things about the cell phone are not necessarily inherently bad. It's the extent of it is very much the issue. So if you are using it in a very limited capacity, that's very different than the problem, which is the reason it's a source of problems, is the way that it is used today. And not just today, this has been increasingly the case for quite a number of years now. So you have here, I show a very provocative graphic, as if the person is addicted, they're having to inject their social media into their veins. And you know, how much is too much? That's dependent on a number of things. But I want to say, even defining what is addiction, there's different ways to define it, and people have used different approaches for it to estimate it. So one way is simply based on time, how much time you spend on the phone. And in the past, when I started working in this field about 5-6 years ago now, we would say that anything above 2 hours is too much. 2 hours a day is problematic. And that's what a lot of the evidence showed us at the time. But once you start going above 2 hours, that's when the problems start. However, I would say, unfortunately, the rate of use has increased so dramatically in recent years that today we say 2 hours, that's not even that much compared to what people are using today. So people are easily, and when I say people, especially young people, especially kids, are easily spending 6 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours plus on these devices. Often it's the first thing they want to look at when they wake up, and it's the last thing they're looking at when they go to sleep. They're taking it to school with them. They're using it regularly throughout their day, whether in school, after school, and overnight. And this is where the problem starts, is basically with excessive use. It doesn't have to be 12, 14 hours a day, but the problems with excessive use are several. Basically, you start using it at the expense of other things. So in addition to direct harms from the media platforms, from these devices that we will cover, but a big part of it is the lost opportunity. So you're using it at the expense of academics. So you'll find kids are falling behind in school and are stressed about that. And that becomes a big challenge. Using it at the expense of exercise, physical activity. Dr. Ganjwala already alluded to that. And as a result, being out of shape, impact on bone health, but also impact on mental health, because when exercise and physical activity is important for mental health, at the expense of going outside, getting sunlight, and interacting with people in a normal way, having direct face-to-face interaction with peers. And then having breaks at the expense of having a break, because you're all constantly on and stimulated when you're using these devices. And last but not least, and I believe Dr. Desai is going to talk about this a bit more later, at the expense of sleep, which is huge as well, because often it's being used at night. And so this is the problem then. So addiction is not just about how many hours, it's also about how it's impacting your life. And then the one more thing I want to say is it's often people find it hard to stop. That's why. And these platforms are designed deliberately in a way to catch people. And so so this is where also another way to define addiction is to when you're using it more than you want to, when you want to use it less, but you have trouble self-controlling and you end up using it more than you want to. So that's basically the kind of overview of addiction. And I believe now Dr. Desai is going to talk about how this happens. Why is it that addiction happens?
So thank you, Elia, for explaining that if anything more than 2 hours. Yes, that's the definition. But if we ask average person, on an average, they are using 5 to 6 hours at least minimum per day. That is what the situation in our country. I am not sure about what is the statistics in Canada.
Very, very similar.
Very similar. And the most important point which you highlighted is like the 24-hour is the same. We cannot expand a day beyond 24 hours. So when we spend more time with the smartphone, something has to have a compromise. And that compromise has a lot of issues that we are going to see in a minute. But Dr. Himanshu, I would like to understand from you, because you are the expert of de-addiction and you are treating a lot of patients with variety of addiction problem. We are not going into the alcohol addiction or the tobacco addiction, but today we are going to restrict ourselves on this smartphone addiction. Can you explain us the mechanism why this happened? In which part of the brain the smartphone is working?
Good evening, sir, and good evening, friends, and good morning in some other part of the world. It's pleasure to be here on OrthoTV in this evening in India part. Basically, smartphone device addiction, which is also known as digital addiction or smartphone addiction, which is it's a growing concern. Even DSM has considered this as a disease, and they have narrated the criteria to consider this as an addiction. Basically, there are many reasons, maybe biological reasons, sociological reasons, psychological reasons. Many reasons are said about this this addiction. But let's talk about biological reasons. One is dopamine release. Basically, there is an instant gratification, like notification, likes, and message which is read by people, which gives instant gratification to the brain, and which releases dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, and which gives a sense of pleasure and reward. And this reward, this forces us to do it again and again. And sometimes there is a variable rewards, like gambling, which is in unpredictable nature, and nature of notification and updates keeps us engaged, hoping for a reward each time, and which forces us to check the device again and again. There is a social people are connected with this, and phenomenon known as fear of missing out, FOMO, is a social. We are always feared that we'll miss some social events, we'll miss some news, we'll not be able to see the updates. So that forces us to do it again. So social connectivity, it gives like likes, comments, which gives us social validation. So we human being, we are always constant in worries of getting this social validation, which forces us to be in touch, or which forces us to do it again and again. Sometimes to escape from the boredom, people go on looking for this social media or smartphone very frequently. They go on seeing video games, seeing some social media, playing games, which gives them entertainment, and sometimes it helps us to avoid to some difficult situation. So that avoidance is helped by using these smartphones, which forces us to do it again and again. And look, this mobile or this smartphone device is available 24/7. If you want to talk to a friend, which is not available every time, so this is 24/7 available with you. It is very handy. And look, when you have to talk to a friend, it gives only a friendship kind of things. But this device provides you watching movie, playing games, seeing some serials, talking to the people, connecting to the people. So there is a full-time accessibility, and there is a convenience, which again forces a person to do it again and again. And nowadays, the rates of internet is gone so down. So people are definitely be there 24/7. And the design of this device is so easy that user-friendly. The interface is very user-friendly. The technique is very easy. There is autoplay videos. There is a push notification that again forces a person to go and look for this device again and again. Sometimes it is a social norms to be connected with the people. So to be into that society, to be connected with the people would like to be always be in touch with them. They forces them to put thumb mark. They forces them to say happy birthday, good morning, good evening. So this is now it has become a culture. You cannot avoid a mobile phone. There are some psychological factors. Sometimes this device relieves anxiety and stress. There are people, their self-esteem is very low, so they are not able to express themselves. But with the device, they are able to express themselves well. So and sometimes for the person who has made this mobile, who are making this app, for them it's a business. They play with the human minds. They will make the things such a way that people will more and more engage into such activities, and gathering data and to use for an e-commerce purpose, it is being used. So there are various reasons why these are the reasons why people are addicted to this device. And recently we have done survey in our psychology group. Then many of the students, more than 50 or 60% of students out of 400, they were using mobile for more than 6 to 8 hours. So it is so common. It is so common with literate and illiterate population also. So smartphone addiction is really growing, and we are seeing parents, they are bringing their child, and most of the parents, they are having the complaints for the children are that there is excessive use of mobile. They are not connected with them. So these are the common complaints which we are seeing. And nowadays we have started admitting the patients also who are excessively using this mobile or this social media or gadget addiction. This is in nutshell about this smartphone addiction.
Yeah, thank you. You really highlighted the issues, and it's not only the one reason, but there are many reasons. And the most surprising thing is like when we take alcohol enters into our bloodstream and then reach to the brain. But here, nothing is directly reaching to the brain. It's just the emotions, and via emotions, everything is affecting our mindset or our mind. Dr. Elia, can you stop sharing for a while so that we can go to the role-playing session? Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you. So now we are going to introduce a very new thing, and what we are going to do in this is we have recorded one role play session, and I will give you the background about that with the presentation on. Himanshu, tell me when I start the video whether you are able to see the or hear the voice properly or not. So
Yes.
let me, yeah. Slideshow. I'm starting from the beginning. So this is a very innovative program which we are going to do for this webinar, and I'm sure that you will really like it. So just to give you the background, there are three people in the role play. On the left, there is a lady psychiatrist. She's Dr. Poonam Grover. She's a child psychiatrist practicing in Ahmedabad. Then we have somewhere over here in the video is the girl. She's 18-year-old. She's in this role play. She's as a patient, and her name is Dratri, and she's a psychologist practicing in Ahmedabad. And then over here, Dr. Himanshu Desai will be role playing as a child's client's father. So this is a 8-minute video, and I'm sure that you will really enjoy it. I'm starting that video now. Before that, let me ensure that the sound is, yeah, perfect.
Namaskar, madam. She's my daughter. I mean, she has just entered into 18, and she was very sweet initially, but somehow since last 2 years, I'm just tired of her. Whole day she's into mobile. Previously, she used to watch cartoons and everything on the TV, but since we have given her this mobile, she's always. But just look at her. We have come to ma'am, and just be here. Look, we have come for you, beta.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hi. So how have you been?
I'm okay. I don't know why exactly I have been brought here.
She's always saying like
You
this.
didn't tell me that we are coming here to see.
Look, you are not ready to come to ma'am. Look, it's difficult to get her appointment. We have taken her appointment. It's required for her
Ma'am,
us
I
to
don't
meet
have
her.
any issues. I think he has issues. Now, if you put me in a tuition that has all the classes online, then what else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to just study? Now they keep thinking that she's on the phone, but all my study material is on the
My
phone.
child,
How
the
else can
COVID
I-
has gone. They were giving us lessons and everything on mobile, but
Ma'am.
now mobile is not required. But she's whole day into mobile, and mobile is there with her. She's not eating well, she's not sleeping well, and her mood is always irritable.
I understand, Mr. Desai, that you're concerned about your daughter.
My mood is irritable because you guys are just constantly irritating me.
Look.
You are just constantly telling me, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I don't want to
We
listen
don't want
to
to stop
guys.
you, beta. We don't want to stop you. But every day from morning to evening, she's into mobile. She's just talking to her friends every time. She's always posting on the Facebook. And when her posts are not appreciated by people, then she's sad, she's depressed, she's crying whole day. Her mother
Ma'am,
are
you
really
tell-
tired.
I understand your concerns. Is it okay if I talk to Vidhatri and would you
Please, ma'am, but
if you just let her talk?
Sure, no,
I
ma'am.
can
No worries,
understand
ma'am.
what difficulty she's
but
having.
just give proper answer to ma'am. Look, we have come here for some solution. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So Vidhatri, you tell me what brought you here. I understand that you told me that your father asked you to come, and he has some concerns with regards to your mobile use, its impact on your home state in terms of how he finds you, in terms of sometimes anxious, sometimes depressed. I want to know from you, how do you...
Madam, truly she was a very sweet girl. Very
Mr.
sweet
Desai,
girl.
you'll have to just let us talk.
Sure,
So
sure,
give us
sure.
few minutes.
Please
Yeah.
pardon
Can you
me.
listen to us and then let her talk, and then I'll ask you
No worries,
your
ma'am.
concerns further.
Ma'am, everybody uses social media these days, right? So I just have now over the years I have accumulated a good following, and they are following my entire journey of my weight loss. So obviously then I have to keep up the content and I have to do all of those things. Everyone in my house just keeps bothering me that you're not eating, you're constantly spending time on the phone, but I am creating content, ma'am. I am
Tell
getting
the
so
ma'am
many
fact.
followers.
Tell the ma'am fact how much you are eating.
What sort of content are you?
Ma'am, I just was posting for fun like everyone does, and then I started to get a lot of followers. So now I do spend a good amount of time trying to see who's liking my post, what is my engagement like, and because of the constant fights and them telling me what to do, I don't feel like talking to them. So I stay in my room.
When did you start doing this?
This started around COVID. Me using social media because that's when they finally gave me a phone.
Yes, ma'am.
And since then, now in the last 1 year, it has kind of picked up. My social media has picked up.
We feel very bad that why we have given her mobile.
They had to give
It
me
would
a
have been much
mobile.
better if you would have not given her
They
mobile.
had to give me a mobile because that's how we were studying those days, right?
Most people had access to any form of gadget during the COVID time. Correct?
True, ma'am, but this is too much.
Yeah, I
She's
understand
hardly
your
eating.
concern.
She is hardly eating something. She is always behind that. She wants to lose weight.
I have checked on Google about what my calorie requirements are, and that's what I'm following. So what
Would you like to tell me what your calorie requirements
Ma'am, I
are
don't-
for an age and a stage?
I can tell you from the PDF that I have seen, but they don't seem to understand that. So they
Ma'am, we
constantly
parents
call
are
it
useless
dieting.
now. Google
They
will
call it
teach her
dieting. But
how
I'm
to
not
eat, what to
dieting.
eat.
Mr. Desai, if you continue to interrupt us, I'll have to ask you.
Sorry,
to
ma'am,
take
but now
outside.
Google will teach us what to eat and what
Google
not to
knows
eat.
much more than any of you do.
Let her finish first.
Okay, please.
Okay, so you've gone on to the social media during the COVID time for your education and
Just
studies.
1 second. Let me just see what's.
Look, ma'am, we have taken your special time and she's after this.
I have an
every time,
important message from a
Bacha,
content
every time
creator.
some guests come, she's into her mobile. She has to post something, she has to look into post. See what she's doing. Insta, every time Insta.
She's asked for a second. Let us give her a second. Once she finishes
She'll
that,
never finish in a minute, ma'am.
I understand your concerns, Mr.
Okay,
Desai.
I'm done.
Finished?
I'm done.
Now be here.
Okay. Now, till we finish our conversation, I want you to keep this on one side so it is not interrupted by this. Correct?
I'll try.
So, if I do a quick summary, we started off in the COVID time because everybody wanted access to gadgets to do their academics.
It was a requirement
It
from
was a
school, ma'am.
requirement and you got the gadget. But in the last 1 year, you're saying that you're following certain things in terms of the food intake, looking at the calorie part,
Ma'am, it all
and you
started.
also talked about. So, can you help me understand exactly in terms of what are you experiencing in terms of following this?
So when I said that, I started posting about my food and my weight loss journey, there was this boy in school and he was kind of, Ma'am, I used to be 75 kgs. So he used to make fun of me saying that I'm fat and all of those things, and that really hurt me. So since then I started looking at things online about what is the dietary requirements, how many calories do I require, and I started to follow that. I would also do exercise, but I was also doing my diet, and then I was posting about it, and that's how it happened. But that when that guy said that to me and everyone kind of chimed in, that is when it struck me that there
How
is.
did that make you feel with the comments that were put?
It made me feel very hurt. It made me feel ashamed that
Ashamed of what?
of myself, of my body, of how heavy I was. So since then, I have lost a good amount of weight.
Good amount?
And
She was around 45, ma'am. This again we have pushed her, so she has reached to 50. It was a very hard time for me and my wife.
But
How did
as
you
per
manage to lose weight from 75 to 45? That's a substantial
calorie
quantity.
deficit, ma'am, that's what they call it.
She was
Calorie
hardly
deficit.
eating something,
And
ma'am.
how frequently you post your
Ma'am, you have to post every 4 hours to keep up your engagement. Otherwise, you start to
Then
lose followers.
people will appreciating that you are losing weight.
Sorry for that. Yeah, so sorry, like we had to stop in between, but that's what the actual scenario is. So thank you, Dr. Himanshu, for like a wonderful role play, and you were very different as a father in that role play. So
Thank
now
you.
let's come to our discussion. And first of all, we would like to understand that what is the effect of this smartphone excessive usage on the sleep? We saw in the role play session that the sleep was affected to a great extent. But can you elaborate more on that?
Right, sir. Basically, smartphone device addiction can significantly impact sleep, and it has a various effect on other parts of the mind and body also. Basically, in smartphone device, there is a blue light, and blue light exposure is basically imitates every time when screen is on, and which suppress the production of melatonin. And melatonin is basically precursor. It's a hormone that regulates sleep wake cycle, and this makes harder to fall asleep and can lead to poorer sleep quality. So this reduced melatonin production will reduce the sleep quality, which affect the sleep quality. And this exposure to blue light, especially before bedtime, which disrupts body's natural circadian rhythm, leading to difficulties in falling asleep and waking up. And there is always many times mental arousal, mental stimulation, which is engaging in stimulating activities such as browsing social media, sometimes watching videos, playing games, which increases arousal, and which make it difficult to wind down and relax before sleep. There are content which produces strong emotional responses, and sometimes this produces so much disturbance in getting into sleep. Sometimes it produces stress, anxiety, so it produces difficulty into falling asleep. And basically, because of we have not slept properly, sometimes we procrastinate, which again increases anxiety and depression. And using this device in bed can create an association between the bed and wakefulness, which is making harder to fall asleep. And sometimes many people, they keep their notification on and vibrator on. So whenever their the phone sounds beep beep or notification starts, it again interrupts in the sleep. So proper sleep is not done, which affects next day and whole day. And this vibration, even a small vibration, sleep is disturbed and produces lots of disturbance. So this is the effect on sleep basically.
So just to recapitulate the three things, the first is like the blue light, which
Yes,
supplies the secretion of melatonin. That's the
melatonin.
first thing. The second is the content itself, the emotional change or the stimulation
Arousal.
it brings. And the third thing is the notification. And I know people like say when they get for or like go to the washroom in the middle of the night, when they hear the beep beep or the unread message, they would
They go.
spend few minutes reading the message. I always wonder what is a really significant or important thing coming in the middle of the night where you really have to read the message. So yes, the sleep is the first thing which is affected with smartphone.
And
Now,
using mobile till late night, again, that will affect to every part, every sleep, the quality of sleep and quantity also.
yeah. So now let's move on to the next factor. And I think the Elia already mentioned in his initial introduction that it affects the socialization also because you are too much engrossed with the mobile and then you really don't like to meet people. So can you tell more about that? Yeah, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I keep forgetting. I'm sharing some slides again because I think the visuals capture quite well what I'm trying to convey. So this picture in particular, these folks can they're delighted to have found each other online, a friend. However, all they have to do is walk around that wall to interact with each other directly. But we have lost the habit of doing that. Even calling today is kind of out of favor. People text instead, and I find often I'm receiving a text, and then I'm a slow texter, so I prefer to talk on the so I'll call back actually, and I'll find the person doesn't answer the phone call, and he'll just send me another text. So. But what does that mean for young people who are growing up with this? When when the communication is happening more digitally than face to face, because that's what is happening, at least in the West, is that young people interact more digitally with each other than they do face to face. And so, how can that influence things when you don't have the tone of voice? When you don't have the eye contact, when you can't see the body language, when you don't see immediate response, there's much more room for miscommunication. There's much more room for things to not be taken as intended, and it becomes much easier to assume negative intentions, especially if you're insecure, doubting yourself. Often there's assumption of negative intentions, and then there's more. It's much more easy to have misunderstanding, and and things can escalate very quickly. And it's also much easier to be aggressive towards someone when you don't have them when they're not facing you right in front of you. So cyberbullying, it's much easier to make negative comments. We know relational aggression is quite rampant in social media interactions among youth. Bullying is not, of course, new. Bullying has existed way before cell phones and social media, probably as long as humanity has existed. However, what's different now is that you take it everywhere with you, as opposed to you experiencing it in a particular location and then it's over once you're not in that location, such as school. Now you take it home with you. Heck, you're taking it to bed with you, as we were saying. So this is so often there are a lot of difficult interactions among young people, and then it can also, the other thing that's happening is unfortunately a lot of sharing of inappropriate images, like sexting and sextortion, where you're threatening the other person because they shared some images. If now you don't share more or you don't do this, I will send others what you sent me and such. So this often is a big source of challenge. The other thing is, what's the currency? The currency of social media. It's likes, it's comments, it's shares, views, view count, and that kind of thing. And so people can spend a lot of effort and resources to try to get these go up in the currency of social media, and if you're not getting comments about your posts or not getting enough likes, that can make you feel negative about yourself. You might feel inadequate. It might simply be because people are, not because they dislike them, but not enough that they want to like them. But the person can often feel bad about it. And the other thing is, what you end up posting is you're not posting random pictures of your regular, normal, mundane, everyday life. You're posting the highlights of your life, and or that's what people post. And so when you're looking at posts from others, you're seeing the highlights of their lives. However, you're aware of the mundane, normal aspects of your everyday life. And so all of a sudden, you start feeling inadequate because you're not having as much as exciting and interesting life as these other people are. So there are lots of studies that show how browsing social media can make you feel inadequate because of the highlights of what people are posting, but also because of the quality of what's posted. The other thing is often people are posting unrealistic images of body, for example, and we saw from the video clip the young girls wanting to lose weight dramatically because she sees unrealistic images being posted and getting a lot of positive comments for excessively thin. But it's not just girls; it's also young males who also want to have unrealistic muscular bodies and such because of posts that are seen. Dr. Dhiren earlier used the term FOMO, fear of missing out, that the term of the complete invented entirely for this social media context, and I find this cartoon captures it well, where this guy goes to Facebook and Facebook says, "You had a rough day." He says, "Yeah, comfort me." And Facebook tells him, "7 of your friends are at a party right now," and tells him, "You're not good at this." And Facebook says, "Blame the algorithm." And again, the point here is how the social media medium basically is relevant here, because in the past, if your friends went out and did not include you, you might never find out about it, or you might hear about it and be upset, but that's it and it's done. But now, again, you take it everywhere with you. You're looking at the posts of their excitement and having fun in their outing, and you're not part of it. And this is another challenge there when it comes to communication.
Okay, good. Yeah, can you stop sharing for a while? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for explaining properly, like what are the changes taking place in the social behavior. Now, we would like to continue in the same direction, because when we don't socialize properly, naturally our communication will be less. And does it have any effect on the overall personality of a person? That I would like to know from Dr. Himanshu. Like, what do you think about this part? The communication, how it's affected?
Communication is basically one of the most important part of our social life. And smartphone addiction, device addiction, can have a several effect on our communication skills. Basically, previously, we used to meet people, greet people in day-to-day life. But with this new medium communication or smartphone device communication, there is a reduction in face-to-face interaction. So whenever there is a decrease, it affects the decrease interpersonal skills. Excessive reliance on digital communication can lead to decline in face-to-face interpersonal skills, such as reading body language, facial expression, and tone of the voice. Because when you're typing, you do not see a person. You're just, the opposite person cannot feel the body language, facial expression of a person, or tone of the voice.
It's only the emoji which are sent.
Yes, only emojis, they will send the signals, but there is no real feeling. Some individuals may develop social anxiety or feel uncomfortable in face-to-face situation because they have stopped talking to people face-to-face. So whenever, after using mobile for long term, when they have to talk to someone, they feel very much uncomfortable. Basically, because of we have started using short forms, emojis, and everything. Suppose if you have to write a letter or write a paragraph, then again it becomes difficult, because now our vocabulary has limited, the grammar has gone, and there is no respect to the grammars. We use shorthand, abbreviation, and emojis, and that's the language. The Y2K generation, or the new generation, the language is totally different. That short form is totally different, which our old generation will feel that, oh, we do not understand, we are just behind this thing. There is reduced articulation. Basically, there is a brevity and informality of digital communication can lead to decline in ability to articulate thoughts, ideas very clearly and effectively in spoken conversations. Sometimes in this world, there is no effect of non-verbal communication, non-verbal gestures. So we are not able to express everything non-verbally, because everything is coming with these emojis and other things. So without regular face-to-face interaction, individual may struggle to interpret others' body language and address non-verbal cue. Eye contact has gone to poor. So whenever we have to do eye contact, we feel more anxious. So these are the many effects. And because of this, our attention span has gone down. So it has affected to our ability of listening. So we are not able to now listen actively. So we'll not be able to do it well. So that will affect to the communication skills. And our listening has become so much superficial. We are difficult to express our emotions well. Sometimes whatever we convey is not interpreted well by the other person, again, that will produce sometimes misunderstanding and other views. Sometimes by talking to someone, which helps us to reduce conflict, but sometimes by texting, sometimes it increases the conflict. So these are different effects on the communication skills. Previously, it was one-to-one communication or in a group communication, but now people are playing games in a group or they are chatting in a group, but we are not able to see them face to face. We are not able to understand what they want to express. So that's a real problem with this smartphone device addiction or overuse of the smartphone or smart devices. This is the effect on routine communication skills.
So basically, when we consider the communication, there are two parts: the expressive and the receptive.
Yes.
And both the things are affected. Expressive naturally because you are not meeting person, but ultimately the effect is like you are not able to receive the signals well, right? Dr. Elia, do you see the similar changes in your country, or it's different?
Well, I would say we do see similar changes as well. One of the things I do is I teach university undergraduate university students in a course that involves them writing an essay every week. And I have to say the quality of the writing has gone down pretty dramatically. Yeah, we definitely see that.
Okay, good. So now coming to the next point, do you see any increase in the mental health issues in various parts? So who would like to take first, Elia or Dr. Himanshu? Who would like to take it first?
I can start.
Yeah, please.
And I will show you some slides because they're very dramatic in terms of how they capture what we're talking about. I want to show you, this is data from Canada. Okay, so I'm going to speak to the Canadian context. I'm based in Canada, and that's what I'm most familiar with. In this line, this is a line showing presentations to the hospital for different reasons, and it goes from 2006 to 2018. Okay, this is for pediatric. So this is Canadian youth. Okay, so everyone under 18. And what we see over this period from 2006 to 2018 is, if we look at the visits to the emergency department, we see a 75% increase to the emergency department. This is very dramatic. And 65% increase in hospitalizations for mental health reasons, okay? Mainly suicidality, okay? So this is, for people not familiar with these numbers, like the system is usually pretty stretched and working near maximum capacity. To see an increase of 75% over a relatively brief period, basically, is something very dramatic, and 65% in mental health hospitalizations. What's interesting is hospitalizations for all other conditions, so for medical reasons, actually went down during that period. Hospitalizations for asthma, cancer, that kind of thing. And so even while those went down, these went up. So it's clear that the young people over this period have been struggling very significantly. And if you see here, if we look at this graph, there seems to be somewhere around this year where the increase is particularly sharp, okay? And I'm going to move on to the next slide, also Canadian data. And this one captures youth with self-harm visits, so going to the hospital because they're harming themselves, and youth for all mental health visits is the one below it. And the reason I want to show this is look at the sudden increase around the year 2009, okay? Same again here, around the year 2009, a big jump, okay? What's going on here? This part of the graph, it's the same data, but what they do is they separate females and males. And interestingly, especially females, look at how sharp the increase is, whether it is for self-harm, whether it is for mental health reasons. Again, we see this around this year, okay? And then I want to show you as well, this is another study, again, Canadian data. This one is actual completed suicides. So these are young people, not just suicidal, who have actually ended their lives. Unfortunately, also around this year, you see the sudden increase, in particular for females, is the pink, okay? And lastly, I just want to show this more, is this one just goes beyond the years I showed you before, so it continues beyond the pandemic, okay? So I want to point out that all of these things started before the pandemic. These things have gotten a lot of attention since the pandemic, but these things started before the pandemic. And it just shows that after the pandemic, the increases went up significantly. This part is especially for girls. It shows the red line for girls ages 15 to 18 and the blue dashed line for girls 10 to 14. So this is Canadian data that I have just shared. I'm going to stop sharing now. What I would be very curious about is, what is the context in India? Is there are there similar trends happening there?
Yeah, before we hear that, I just would like to ask you 2 points and clarify the 2 points. The first is, why 2009? What is the significance of the year 2009? Because almost all graph says that there is a spike. And the second,
Yes.
there is a mismatch between the boys and the girls. So we would like to understand these 2 points.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Dhiren. They're both important points. The reason for 2009, this is the year when the majority of young people started using digital media as the main form of communication, basically. So owning iPhone. So you showed early on in the introduction a picture of Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone. This is basically the period when the iPhone became, or smartphones in general, came into use by the majority of young people. And so there are many studies that have looked at this relationship, and it's very clear that there's a clear temporal relationship around the time when the majority of people started using these devices and when these difficulties started. So that's in terms of the year. With regards to the male-female question, it's an interesting one, and I would say we don't have the full answers. However, the thinking is that it's because for adolescence is a very important period for social development, and for girls in particular, developing your social identity, seeing where you are in the social hierarchy, and all the jostling that goes around there is very important for adolescent females. For males as well, but males interact differently. They are usually, they might play more sports outside, or they might spend more time on video games, but much of the social media interaction is happening with girls. Now, it doesn't mean boys are not affected. Boys certainly are affected, just that girls are affected to a larger extent, because they are more social, especially in adolescence and during this period of identity formation.
Okay, good. So thank you for clarifying these 2 points. I'm sure that probably in India, we are not having really good statistics like what you have. But from the clinical impression and from the experience of last so many years of practice, Dr. Himanshu will definitely be able to tell us about what is happening in India.
It's almost similar worldwide, basically. Mental health is commonly affected because of overuse of smart devices, because there is a constant comparison which is going in person's mind, which produces tremendous stress and anxiety to the young population. They are always worried about notification likes. They are always watching for emails and social validation, which again produces tremendous stress and anxiety to be connected with the world with this smart device. And this can also lead to depression, because when it's been not compared well with other people, not validated well, which can be the base, or which can be the trigger for depression. And though it connects to the people virtually by social media, but basically it increases distance between people to people. People are sitting together, connecting through their smart devices, but they are not able to talk to one-to-one when they are allowed to be into one room. because they find it so much difficult. They can easily connect well with device, but when they are asked to talk one-to-one, they find it so much difficult, which again leads to depression and other problems. I already said about the sleep disturbance because of blue light and other things. Sometimes it produces all this problem, which can affect to next day issues, which can produce lots of physical problem also. Sometimes because of social media, this smartphone device addiction reduces attention span, and sometimes they produces attention deficit kind of problems. So ADHD is again common. Not proper sleep will produce memory disturbance. In later age, it can lead to Alzheimer's kind of things also, which is commonly seen. Addiction, smartphone addiction, gaming addiction can lead to other gambling kind of things also, which is commonly nowadays seen. Recently, I was just going through the literature, and I found that in India, there are 1,400 companies who is making games, and they have 500 studios of making games. And by 2028, the gaming industry is going to be $6 billion industry in India. But today in 2022, the American gaming industry is around $217 billion industry. In 2023, it was around $243 billion industry. And by 2030, it's going to be $400 billion industry. So they are coming up with new and newer games to engage more and more people, so you can spend more and more time. PUBG's revenue was around $240 billion when it was closed down in India. So again, it's available in US and other part of the world, but they are engaging people. People are spending money on them. So again, gaming addiction and gambling is again very common. With the social media and smartphone devices. I'm seeing a couple of patients who are regularly doing into this gambling and other addiction because of this social media. There is possibility of anonymity. So cyberbullying is again very common. Online harassment is again very common, which produces lots of mental issues to the person who is doing and who is culprit because of this. So cyberbullying and online harassment is again commonly increasing. Body image issue, body dysmorphic disorder kind of things, which we clinically put a diagnosis, which is commonly seen. People are not happy with their body shape, body image, because what they are seeing on a social media. Because now filters are available on social media. So while posting your face, if you use this filter, and your face will be different. So when you go to the social media, you will be look different. While in person, you look different. So always you will feel that inferior to the others whom we are seeing regularly on the media. So again, this produces lots of stress and anxiety. And where this social media addiction will decrease physical activity. So when physical activity is reduced, it will affect to the other part of the body. Lifestyle is changed. So it affects to the every part of a human being. So it has effect on mental health, it has effect on physical health. So everywhere this high use or overuse of this medium is definitely detrimental to all of us. Over to you, Dhiren bhai.
Yeah, thank you. Like say we discuss about the sleep, we discuss about the socialization, we discuss about the communication, we discuss about the mental health. The last point, because like we are already coming to the time, like the last point, which is very close to me, what is the effect of smartphone on the intelligence of the person, on the cognition part of the brain? Dr. Elia, I would like to hear your views on that. Unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you for reminding me this. There's a lot I could talk about here, but I am mindful of the time, so I'm just going to try to be quick. Okay. One thing that's gotten a lot of attention, no pun intended, is the topic of ADHD. Okay, because we have been seeing an increase in ADHD recently, since a number of years now. And I want to talk about the different ways why this might be happening, and people are wondering about their cognition. I want to share quickly, start with the study that we did a couple of years ago now, where we looked at the 100 most popular videos on TikTok that that had the hashtag ADHD. Okay, so we searched the hashtag ADHD, and we looked at the 100 most popular videos to look at the quality of the information that's being given. And we found that just over half of them were misleading. Okay, we evaluated them systematically in a number of ways. 27% were personal experiences, not necessarily wrong or right, just people talking about their own personal experiences, and 21% were useful. Basically, half of them were misleading. This is the 100 most popular videos on ADHD. And this study got a lot of attention, got a lot of coverage in the media. However, and people are focusing mostly on the misleading aspects, okay? But what people missed, I think, and didn't focus enough on is this. Hashtag ADHD had 4.3 billion views, okay? We published this study in 2022, meaning we collected the data the year before in 2021. So in 2021, hashtag ADHD had 4.3 billion views. How many views does hashtag ADHD on TikTok have today? It is over 40 billion views. It's completely inundated with talk about ADHD, okay? And I cannot tell you exactly how many views. I can only tell you over $40 billion. And the reason I cannot tell you how many exactly is because TikTok removed the feature where you can look at how many views each hashtag gets, because they were getting a lot of negative press about it. So they've removed that feature. So I cannot find this out now, but I can tell you that it's a lot. And not only are people being inundated by that, they're being targeted by advertisers on TikTok that, based the algorithm can tell through, what you're searching, what you're watching, and you can get targeted advertisements selling the idea of ADHD to you and trying to connect you with private clinics. So looking at the popularity of ADHD as a concept among young people, well, actually not among young people, in society in general, I looked at in Google, you can look at how often people are searching for a term. And this is Canadian data, best from the past 10 years. And you see the sudden increase just in recent years and people suddenly being interested in ADHD. Okay, this is Canadian data. And then I was curious to see, is it the same in India? Could it be the same? I didn't know. And I looked it up, and indeed, you see a very similar trend. Also, in recent years, a sudden increase in interest in this concept of ADHD. That's what people are inundated with. That's what people are talking about. And it's not just a concept. It is people are self-diagnosing, and medication prescriptions have gone up. This is American data. This is pre-pandemic, and which was already going up. But look at post-pandemic, the dramatic rise in prescriptions for ADHD. These are two different kinds of ADHD medications, and both kinds, dramatic rise since the pandemic. So what's going on here? Why is ADHD diagnosis increasing, which we know it has been increasing dramatically in recent years? One is, there's a question, what is normal capacity to pay attention? It's very fuzzy. We can talk about a lot about each of these points, but I'm going to go through them very quickly. It's very fuzzy. Who determines what's normal? So it means that it's open to being questioned, okay? But the other thing is, and I think this is what Dr. Dhiren is trying to get at, is when you're, and Dr. Desai touched on this as well, when you're constantly exposed to high levels of stimulation, it does affect your capacity to pay attention. This is not just theoretical. There's lots of studies on this. In fact, what's interesting is it does change your brain, okay? So there are this is very new, recent studies looking at brain changes in people who spend a lot of heavy social media users and internet users versus those that are not. And those that are heavy internet users have brains that look more like the brain of what you would expect with ADHD. Okay, there are specific areas of the brain that are responsible for paying attention. And the other thing is, Dr. Desai mentioned dopamine. So there's a study that actually looked at that. So we know that with ADHD, dopamine synthesis in a key part of the brain is down, and dopamine production. And so, but when you're constantly getting dopamine hits constantly, that's what happens. Your brain adapts to that and regulates. And now you look at these people's brains who are using digital media very heavily, and you find that the dopamine production in their brain is also down, similar to what you see in an ADHD brain. Plus, we're surrounded by distractions constantly, including from these devices themselves. The online work environment, it doesn't help because you're at your computer as opposed to with all meetings and everything, which is also hard to stay focused on all the time. Sleep deprivation makes it hard to focus. Stress makes it hard to focus. Increased expectation. And as I said, social contagion just from being surrounded by this. Plus, you're getting direct marketing from the pharmaceutical industry and from private ADHD clinics. So no wonder that cognition, people do have a much reduced capacity to pay attention. There are brain changes that are associated with that. And everyone's thinking, I have ADHD, that's what's going on.
But is it because of like the people are becoming more aware about ADHD, because everyone is like worried about that that problem, and most of the young mother, they are always worried about that their child has this problem. So that could be the reason like people are searching so much on Google for this terminology. But do you see the increased rate of ADHD in your practice?
I see an increased rate of people saying that they have ADHD and talking about it. Now, to be fair and to answer your question properly, Dr. Dhiren, I think at least in some of these cases, it is related to increased awareness that's helpful. Okay, so some people that are actually struggling, regardless of social media, with ability to stay focused and do what they need to do, and they would have been called in previous times, lazy, not working hard, bad kid kind of thing, and then it shows that, well, their self-regulation capacity as kids is behind other kids in terms of their development, and there the diagnosis can be useful for sure. So I have no doubt about that some people have benefited from this increased awareness. However, I think this is a minority. Unfortunately, I think in the majority of cases, it's people who think they have ADHD because they are struggling, because they're hard for them to stay focused now after being exposed constantly to so much stimulation with digital media. And so they're driven entirely by stimuli. And the minute they need to drive their focus themselves on tasks that are tedious, that require you to stay focused to complete the task, they find that have a much harder time. Plus, you add that they're behind maybe on their academics, they're sleep deprived, which makes it harder to focus. They're surrounded by distractions because these devices, it's harder to focus when these devices are right with us. They're pinging and ponging, and even if you turn it off, just its mere physical presence affects focusing negatively with our studies on that. So really the best, it should be out of sight, not just off, it should be out of sight, because the physical presence can in fact impact focusing. So I think a lot of it is more that.
Okay, we are already running late, so we will not continue the discussion further, but I am sure that this is what we hear from you. It's really alarming, and we really need to think about it. How to solve this problem is a big problem, and a lot of people, they ask that you speak always about the problem, but what about the solution? So we again need to have a second session on that, and we need to offer something to our audience about like how to come out of this problem. So definitely we will find out the date, and we will have the next session on solution. So with that, thank you both of you for sharing your vast experience with us, and a lot of understanding about this upcoming new, I would say, pandemic in the world. So thank you once again, and see you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.